Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be an early impressions on the Scyrox V6. I have had it for a few days, so I don't want to call this a full review. But yeah, this is Scyrox's second mouse and a clone of the gwolves Hottie S Plus. And this is clearly what Scyrox is doing. I did receive direct confirmation, I mean not from the brand, but they are a sub-brand of Lamzu. So this is really just Lamzu going around pretty much like on an alt, smurfing, some could say, and they are cloning popular shapes. But yeah, it makes sense why they went with the Hottie S Plus. It's a very like safe, medium profile, small mouse, but with the slightly longer length compared to the original Hottie S Plus from gwolves. It is suitable for people with slightly larger hands than the original. That's very similar to what they did with the V8 and the slightly larger X2H Mini. But yeah, the Hottie S Plus, it's not like a shape that I personally go back to a lot, but in the past it was very popular as a recommendation for people who the GPX was too large for. So the Scyrox V6 is really going to fill that same role. This mouse does come in at $70 with a solid $39.50 implementation, omron opticals, and the big issue I had with the V8 was main click, side to side wobble, and you can just see like this left click is really bad. And it's slightly not as bad, but I have only had this for 3 days, but it's definitely, it doesn't cause me any issues in game, but it's just something to monitor, and it doesn't seem like they made any huge changes going to the new mouse model. And there actually is another change that was made. They reduced the total travel distance of the clicks, which was another thing I pointed out. It was a really low quality click feeling, but for a first mouse, $70 mouse, I kind of excused it. And on this one, there still is a good amount of room for post travel, but it's just nowhere near as bad as it is on the V8. But once again, gotta keep monitoring it. In general, it's just a very standard Omron optical experience. All of these budget Chinese mice are coming out with Omron opticals, and really my only concern is like the rebound is slower than it is on something like the Kill GX switches that Endgame Gear uses. I think switches just need to focus on having a super fast rebound, just lower travel distance in general, and this is one way to just improve implementations across the board. But yeah, I'd say these clicks get a pass better than my experience was on the V8. And the shape, while I called it like a safe design, and I definitely think it definitely is aggressive and high profile feeling in your hand. Like if you want a small, lower profile mouse, there are a lot of like alternatives on the market, whether it be the standard Lamzu Maya, ATK F1 Extreme, just like so many lower mice that are still going to be suitable for claw grip, but won't potentially be like too bulby or filling of your hand. And yeah, compared to the original Hottie S Plus, you can really only notice this additional length in just a slightly larger size. Like none of the flares or the curvature feel altered. So yeah, I'd say it's about as close to that experience as you're going to get. gwolves themselves, of course, recently released the Hottie S Plus 2, or just the Hottie S2, which is a smaller, lower profile version of this mouse. So now you have multiple sizes to choose from, and of course Scyrox does come in at around half of the price. The mouse weight is 40 grams advertised, but it actually comes out on my scale at 42 or 43. With the stock skates, obviously that means it is a brick. I don't have any issues with the weight balancing. It just feels like a very easy mouse to control. It's light. I'm very thankful that the V6 is actually a unique size and shape, because we have a lot of these 40-gram Chinese mice with solid shells, and they all they're very similar just in terms of weight, feeling, and specs in hand. So this at least is refreshing and different. And yeah, one area I don't think this mouse is especially premium is the coating. It's not like really grippy or rubberized. It does almost just feel like the standard plastic feeling. Definitely more of a slippery, less grippy experience than most like premium mice on the market. Razer, Endgame Gear, even like the ATK F1 Extreme, Hitscan, Hyperlight, these certainly have better coatings. But yeah, it's really just a matter of personal preference. It's not any worse than the coating they had on the V8, and maybe that's a way they can keep the cost down. Speaking of the cost, like, is this the best mouse under $100? I don't feel like it is definitively by any means. It's just another option in a sea of options. But if you use the Hottie S Plus in the past and you want like a modern, lighter, just cheap version, this is easily the mouse to go for. If you've like never used a small mouse before, I'm not going to outright say that this will be the best one. Yeah, shape-wise, this is definitely not a top option or recommendation of mine for fingertip. Like I've said before, the ATK F1 Extreme, it's just going to be a bit more suitable. Obviously, lighter, lower, thinner. This is more of a claw grip shape for small to medium hands. I can even pull off a pretty comfortable claw grip because this is not a mouse that's so much less wide or less tall compared to the GPX. There's just not as much length. So yeah, if you're looking for something super small, Viper Mini, Lamzu Atlantis Mini-sized, Final Mouse small, this is obviously not going to be it. But yeah, this is still one of the more well-rounded packages for a mouse that's like $70. It's pretty ridiculous. I didn't have any issues with the sensor in the 3 days I've had it. It's gone down like 28% or so on 2K polling with competitive mode enabled. And yeah, battery life is really what you make of it. There's obviously so much anti-high polling rate sentiment right now. So yeah, if you run this on 1K, no long distance mode, no competitive mode, it'll probably last you like at least 2 weeks. But if you get the most out of your sensor, you're running it on like 4K comp mode on long distance mode, yeah, it's gonna last a few days. But yeah, the 3950 sensor, it uses power according to how you tell it to, so you have the control over the battery life in most situations. The sensor positioning is also nice and slightly high. This does copy gwolves' original design, so if you are a high sensor placement truther, which I think a lot of people are just becoming like out of trend, it's kind of bizarre to me, but you know, God bless it. And yeah, if you're somebody who values the sensor kind of lining up with your thumb, then you will likely be satisfied on this mouse. But yeah, just the sensor feeling implementation, it seems identical to the Scyrox V8. It's just a standard 3950, so nothing is really going to blow your mind there. But I do think the tech is reliable, implementation solid, and consistent. And I realize I didn't call this a full review, but what's the difference, really? Am I going to redo this after like a week? Probably not. So this will be the full review. This definitely does get the budget seal of approval, where it's not going to be something that I keep in my main rotation every day, but I do feel like, considering that you can buy like 2 of these for the price of one Viper V3 Pro, like yeah, it's a really good mouse experience, and it doesn't break the bank, so it gets the budget seal of approval. But yeah, just things like the click design, the coding, the build structure being a bit weaker, it keeps it from being in that like S+ tier in my opinion. Yeah, I feel like those drawbacks are things that most people are going to be okay with, considering the $70 price versus $140 from gwolves for essentially the identical shape and technically worse specs. And yeah, there are a few things that are just very basic I didn't even bother to mention, just like the scroll wheel, about as basic as they come, and same thing with the standard stock PTFE skates. There's also really nothing in the box besides the mouse, dongle, cable, and an extra set of skates. I don't think anybody's expecting much. And yeah, the side buttons, I don't know if I spoke about these, but they're the same like pill style design as the GPX, but they are much clickier. There is a tactile feeling. Just overall pretty solid side buttons, nothing to complain about. But on a lot of cheap Chinese mice, they do eventually loosen up over time, but I can't hold that against it. It hasn't happened yet. But yeah, all in all, I'd say this was a solid second release from Scyrox. It obviously isn't a flawless mouse, but the point I'm trying to drive home is that the package is very good for the price, and for well under $100, you get a mouse that really holds up to some of the best, even though that's not like, this isn't the first mouse to offer that. But yeah, any other questions, let me know. I really wonder what shape Scyrox is going to clone next. But yeah, that's going to be all. Like and sub. Peace out.